Thank you so much for having me this evening. I'm so excited to be back at the Day One annual fundraiser. It's so critically important to serious issues that we're dealing with. This is my third time at this event. I don't know where I was last year. I know in 2016 I was on the campaign. But last year I was like, why didn't I come? I don't know where I was. Maybe I was traveling, but I'm back and I'm glad to be here. Thank you. I'm always so excited to be here because it's an important evening where we're able to share this space and be with advocates and allies who are working every single day to change the culture and make the world safer for everyone. I am a survivor. I'm a survivor who speaks about my experience with sexual assault in public. That's a whole different animal. When I was assaulted at the age of 25, I was asked, just like so many other survivors out there, what I was wearing, whether I had been drinking, and what I could have done differently to prevent my own assault. And that felt completely backwards to me. How can I prevent someone else from making the choice to violate consent? I can't. And today we all know what to call this dynamic. It's called victim blaming, and we all now know that. Because everyone in this room knows that long before Me Too was a hashtag and a national headline, rape culture was a very real phenomenon, and intimate partner violence was an epidemic requiring radical solutions. At age 25, when I was assaulted, I couldn't believe people were interrogating me. Why are you asking me questions about what I did and what my actions were, as opposed to directing your questions to the person who assaulted me? These questions about my choices the night of my assault, as opposed to the choices made by my rapist, were in some ways as painful as the violent act itself. Unfortunately, I discovered what rape culture is through my own lived experiences, like so many other people have experienced as well. And having chosen to speak out, I've chosen to speak out so no other person has to live through that. I stumbled into rape culture and decided dismantling it would become my life's work. It's through this work that I met Stephanie Nova, and I learned about the great work that Day One is doing right here in the city I live in, New York. Day One knows the solution cannot just be teaching young girls how to avoid being abused, how to avoid being assaulted, how to avoid being raped. That's backwards. Day One knows that you must create a culture of consent and educate young people on what healthy relationships look like and feel like, so that they are learning the right lessons, as opposed to repeating the wrong lessons of generations past. In this Me Too era, it's important that every single young person be given the tools to break down the culture that normalizes sexual assault and misogyny. Day One goes to the root of that exact problem. They make sure we are all working every day through re-education to end the habit of objectifying women and treating them like objects as opposed to people, which is what we are. Day One educates young men and all genders of young people, because in order to prevent intimate partner violence, you have to teach people the right way before they engage in relationships the wrong way, the controlling and the violent way. To make this type of change possible, Day One has kept an intense focus on 4 very important and interconnected areas for the last 15 years. So give a round of applause to Day One, because today is the 15th year. It's amazing. First, their staff helps survivors of relationship abuse under the age of 24 with counseling, case management, and legal representation. Second, they educate youth from kindergarten through college with the skills and knowledge to form healthy and safe relationships. Third, they train young people to become leaders and advocates so they can help their peers spot those red flags and find help when they need it. And finally, Day One advocates and organizes for policies that are more responsive to the health and well-being of young people. There are a lot of people who ask me where this Me Too movement is going, now that we have a name for it, right? Because it was rape culture before, but now we have a hashtag, so we'll call it the Me Too movement. Where's it going? And I always point to the prevention work that Day One does as the answer that will bring us to that better future. Day One is an organization that creates systemic change and also creates cultural change. They are supporting survivors, but also stepping in before it becomes a problem. And they're working to ensure that right here in New York, this state requires that every student will learn about healthy relationships and consent starting in kindergarten and continuing through high school. Yeah. Day One's impact is growing as the conversation expands about sexual assault and domestic violence. They've grown by 400% in just the last 5 years alone. It is for all of these reasons that I am so proud to join you this evening, and all of you here in this room, who are all allies and, I like to say, accomplices, really, in this fight, right? I'm so happy to be here to join you and support Day One, now in its 15th year, because we have to embark on the next 15. Together at this critical moment, we must embrace this opportunity to end the cycle of abuse and violence for an entire generation. So let's hope that that's the case. And I think that if we continue this work, that will be a reality.